And welcome to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, and the trade deadline in the NFL was today at 3 p.m. There were some big-time moves, so joining me to talk about it, Nick Volpetti and Will Miller. And guys, this was a big day in the NFL. Lots of moves going on, and the Cowboys were at the forefront, trading for Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets in a blockbuster deal. Nick, what do you think about this trade?
I think that, for this season for the Cowboys, it's definitely going to help. This defense has been so bad. I mean, we all know it. We've all seen it throughout this year. Can't get pressure on the quarterback, can't cover. So Quinnen Williams is going to help with that pressure aspect, at least for, right now. But I think when you look at this trade, over the next few years, I really don't think it's a good move for the Cowboys. I mean, you lose two pieces that you kind of picked up from Micah Parsons. I know it's not the same exact draft picks, but you trade away your Cowboys draft picks, which are probably going to be, or they are going to be higher than the ones that you got from Micah Parsons for the Packers, who are a better team. So those picks are going to be later on in the draft. So, I mean, when you look at it, it's kind of like they traded Micah Parsons for Quinnen Williams. And if you look at the draft capital, at least, and nobody would do that. Nobody would ever say, I'm going to trade Quinnen Williams for Micah Parsons, which is kind of what the Cowboys ended up with, at least when you look at the value. But like I said, for this season, it's going to be good for the Cowboys. But in the long run, as you can see here, I think the Jets won this trade and won this deadline, which we'll talk about the Sauce Gardner trade as well. And I think the Cowboys ultimately lost.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for the Cowboys. Like you said, I think that's an interesting comparison. Looking at it, to break it down, the Cowboys, they get Quinnen Williams, and they give up a 2026 second-round pick, 2027 first-round pick, and former first-round pick, Mazi Smith. So, like you said, it's similar to the Micah Parsons deal in terms of you got two first-round picks in exchange for Micah Parsons, those obviously being from the Packers. This one, as far as I understand, they're actually going to get a choice of the higher draft pick that they can take, whether that be the Packers or the Cowboys one. But either way, you give up quite a bit for Quinnen Williams, who is an impact interior defensive lineman. Will, do you think this trade was worth it for Dallas?
I think it's got multiple components on both sides. I'd probably grade this trade roughly about a B, maybe a B plus. It's really going to depend on how much of a run stopper Quinnen Williams can be. Being in the interior, he's been a guy throughout his career that's been touted for his ability to rush the passer, but he's not as much of your traditional run-stopping, interior defensive lineman. So I think that is going to be a pretty big factor at play here. Also, I think the Cowboys did their due diligence by not giving up their 2026 first-round pick and still holding on to those. But obviously, the 2027 one is still a bit of a rough blow here. Mazi Smith had not been playing good at this juncture, up to this juncture in the season. So you're essentially kind of, swapping out a pretty low-level D tackle for a guy that's been All-Pro before, which, I think is obviously a huge upgrade. But I still think that there, may be some issues to address in the secondary that, potentially were more prominent than I think the Cowboys management may be taking into consideration here. Ever since in their two moves that they've got rid of Micah here, or since they've gotten rid of Micah, they've obviously brought in two interior defensive linemen, and the defense, as we'll talk about here in a second, in this past game for the Cardinals, is still not stopping the run, still struggling heavily with that. So I think it's sort of a double-edged sword, but I think that if Williams can tap into his All-Pro potential, that this trade could have some pretty high-end benefits.
Yeah, Quinnen Williams is an elite player. He's been a Pro Bowler the last 3 years. He can make that impact, certainly, on this Cowboys defense, and I think you'll feel that right away. Now, pairing him with Kenny Clark, who you also got from the Micah trade, and also Odighizuwa, I think you create one of the best interior, defensive linemen in the league. I think that's great. However, it's been a lot more than just the run stopping that's been a problem. I think that's actually improved this year so far. But if you look at the pass rush, they were a little better against Arizona, but it's still been lacking overall since you traded Micah. And then the secondary has just been atrocious. It's been really, really bad, struggling to cover anyone. I mean, we saw against the Cardinals wide open receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a career day. So I think this helps, but I don't think it fixes the Cowboys defense. And then another move they made was Logan Wilson, the linebacker from the Bengals. They only gave up a 7th-round pick for him. Nick, how much do you think of an impact this one will make?
I mean, the linebackers this year have been awful as well. Kenneth Murray's had a rough year. So I think it's going to help. Logan Wilson he's not going to be a game changer. He's not going to be a guy that like completely changes things around and turns the Cowboys into an elite defense. But it's a move that I think can maybe add some depth, can help bring a guy in who he gets a fresh start. The Cowboys get a fresh guy to put in there. I don't think this can go bad for the Cowboys. Certainly, it's not like their linebackers are doing good as it is. So even if he's not that good, it's not like anything really changes in my opinion. But I mean, I think that he can be a guy that can be good for the Cowboys if things go right. And I liked the move this morning. I think that was a good trade for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think so. Anytime you just give up a 7th-round pick, I'm not ever going to be upset about that. I think it'll help, especially once DeMarvion Overshown gets healthy. Jack Sanborn was just put on injured reserve, so you've been a little thin on the linebacking core. Kenneth Murray, like you said, has just kind of struggled this year. So I don't mind this at all, but again, I just don't know how much it moves the needle on this Cowboys defense. Will, do you think that these two trades together are enough to salvage this season for the Cowboys defense?
Being at 3-5-1 at this juncture, I don't think that it's going to be quite enough to, salvage this season entirely. I mean, I think the Cowboys could still make a push for the playoffs, certainly, or a wild card position. But to get into that next level contender sphere, I don't see it. I still think that the issues in the secondary are going to override that at the end of the day, especially with Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs not playing up to the potential that we've seen them play in seasons past. That's been something that I think has been really detrimental. And going forward, I think addressing the secondary, the middle linebacker positions, we'll see how Wilson does. I have some optimism for him. He has a good positional size, but kind of relatively unproven. It's just I think that those are going to be more prominent areas of that they're going to need to fix. But at the end of the day, to your point, Steven, they do have a really good D line, and when Overshown gets back, they have a pretty good front seven. So we'll see how far that can kind of mitigate things down the stretch defensively.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But before we move a little further through the trade deadline, I do want to at least touch on what happened last night. It wasn't great for the Cowboys. A 27-17 loss to the Cardinals on Monday Night Football, and we saw, I think, all of these issues that we've been talking about. The defense didn't look all that great. The offense really had some trouble as well. Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals, backup quarterback, backup running back, they get a pretty dominant win at AT&T Stadium. I don't want to say dominant. I know it's just 10 points, but the Cowboys were never competitive in this game like you would have expected. At home, the Cowboys have been great. All of that just sort of went out the window in this game. This field goal snuck its way through, and it just felt like the Cardinals snuck their way right past Dallas. What did you see from this game, Nick?
It was bad. that was a crazy route, by the way.
Look at this. Marvin Harrison Jr.
absolutely breaks that cornerback's ankles.
Deron Bland was on the ground.
Deron Bland, that shows why, like you said, he has not had that great of a year. This was a very good moment, but I think this shows the Cowboys get a free touchdown, and they still lose by 10. They still are not competitive. It just shows how bad they played, and I know you said they can make a push for the playoffs. I don't think so. I think that this game, you're going to get Quinnen Williams, and that's going to help, but I don't think this team can make the playoffs. I think at this point, you're 3-5-1. There are so many good teams in the NFC, and this Cowboys team isn't good enough to win 5 or 6 of the last 7 games. So you can see there. I mean, the Cowboys just giving up touchdown after touchdown. It's going to be 24-7 here right after this pass into the corner by Brissett, finding Trey McBride. I mean, the Cowboys just weren't competitive in this game at all, like you said, Steven.
Yeah, and it was a rough watch. I mean, just over and over again, the Cowboys, it felt like defensively giving up touchdowns, and then offensively, this was one bright spot, Ryan Flanoy in the back of the end zone. But aside from that, the turnovers were really ugly in this game. Jake Ferguson had a fumble. Javonte Williams had a crucial fumble when it really was kind of your last shot at the end there. End of the day, Cardinals take a knee here and win 27-17 at AT&T Stadium without Kyler Murray. Jacoby Brissett, it was no problem for the Cardinals, and it just once again showed the Cowboys just unable to compete, not against even the best team. Will, I don't know, where do the Cowboys go from here? And do you think this trade is enough, or do you think the season might be a wash?
I mean, like I said, obviously, if everything swings the right way, they could make a push for the wild card of the playoffs. That's more so what I was insinuating. Not that that's guaranteed by any means. I still think that this team is on the outside looking in for the most part. And the offense last night, they've obviously had a lot of good performances this season. We see a little bit of a down week. You're going to have that variance from time to time, but they've got to get back on track. Dak's got to start, and the gang got to start putting up 30 plus if on a consistent basis down the stretch of the season if they want to be able to compete in the NFC East.
Yeah, we're going to have to see. Still a season ahead, but Cowboys, they were buyers at the deadline. Jets were sellers. Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner going away, but we'll have to see. And now we're going to move on and recap the World Series.
Happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today. Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today. Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I am your host, Steven Lucero, and we're going to talk about the World Series wrapping up last week in Game 7. It was a wild series and truly one for the ages. Joining me to talk about it, Jaden Crumpton and Colby Platt. Guys, this was something. We go all 7 games. We go all the way to extras in the 11th inning. Dodgers, Blue Jays, it was amazing. But the Dodgers, end of the day, get the victory back-to-back for the first time since the Yankees did it in their three-peat. Jaden, what did you see from this series, and tell me about Game 7?
Well, with the whole series, it was great. It was one of the best we've had in a long time. And then I think the story with Game 7, you're always going to be looking back at all the big moments that the Blue Jays missed and the big moments that the Dodgers capitalized on. They won that game because their guys came up big with solo shots when they needed them. 3 of their 4 runs, I believe, were those solo shots from Smith, Muncy, and Rojas, of all people. And then, of course, with the Blue Jays, 14 left on base in Game 7, left the bases loaded in the bottom of the 9th, grounded into a double play to end it with the tying run on 3rd. So I think the story for them, for Game 7 at least, is a failure to capitalize on those opportunities that they had.
Yep, certainly. The Blue Jays had so many moments in that game where it was like, this is the chance to walk this off. This is the chance to win it, to bring it home. But, I mean, you got to give the Dodgers some credit. In 2 games on the road, they overcome everything, and they get the win. Colby, what did you see from them in this series?
I mean, I saw a team that they never gave up. I feel like that's just something we just know with the Dodgers now, where, no matter, they can be down by any deficit, you can never count them out. I mean, they have such a stacked roster that any player at the plate can just, they can change the game in one pitch. Obviously, you said they won the 2 road games, Game 6 and 7, but I just think both games, they overcome a deficit, especially in Game 7 when Bo Bichette hits the 3-run shot off of Ohtani. You really think, a lot of people thought, okay, the Blue Jays are winning this game. That was the defining moment. But again, you can never just count the Dodgers out. And so I just saw a lot of adversity, and that's the reason why they just went back-to-back.
Yeah, and they did indeed go back-to-back. It was an amazing series from the beginning. We've been talking about it for a while. We talked about the incredible Game 3. I mean, it was at the moment where, the series has changed. And then all of a sudden, the Blue Jays, they come back, they win games in LA, and it looks like they've turned the tide. They're up 3-2. And then Dodgers steal 2 games on the road. Jaden, how were they able to get it done, especially as road warriors?
Oh, man, their pitching, really. I mean, Yamamoto showed up. They had a great outing from him. Obviously, he was the MVP of the whole series. He pitched amazing and then showed up in Game 7. But, yeah, those 2 road games were huge for them. Like I said, it's really just on the back of their pitching. And the Dodgers, if you look at their overall stats, there's no individual player that really had a crazy series at the plate besides maybe Ohtani. It was a lot of just timely hitting from them. I'm not someone who's a big believer in clutch, but the Dodgers were clutch this series.
Yeah, absolutely. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto was incredibly clutch. I mean, what he was able to do, throwing a complete game, he comes in, closes out Game 7. He was almost available for that crazy extra innings game. Even in 18 innings, he almost went back out there. And I think it just shows the warrior that he is, wanting to do whatever it takes for this team. And he was able to do it in the end. Colby, what do you think about his performance in this World Series?
I think it's one of the greatest just sports performances in history, let alone World Series. I think it's one of the greatest performances in sports. I mean, we saw in Game 1, the story coming into this series was the Dodgers bullpen. And, once they took their starter out, that's when teams were starting to come back and, the bullpen will just crumble again. That's why in Game 1, when they gave up the grand slam to Addison Barger on the pinch hit, they saw in the Game 2, Yoshinobu Yamamoto went the whole way. He tossed a complete game. And so when the Dodgers can't rely on their bullpen, obviously you have to rely on your starters to go all the way, but I think the bullpen actually stepped up after Games 1 and 2. We saw in that 18-inning game, a lot of the rest of the series from Game 2 on, a lot of those runs the Blue Jays scored were off of the Dodgers starters, and the bullpen just came in and shut down. But Yamamoto was a key part, especially when he started Game 6, and he gave up those runs and the bullpen came in. The bullpen saved him that game because he was the only pitcher to give up runs that game. And we saw in Game 7 when they used him as a reliever. Obviously, in the Game 7, you're going to have every pitcher in the bullpen. I mean, it's the last game of the season, so you're going to have everyone at your disposal. Even when Yamamoto comes out of the bullpen, he's still dominant, he's still clutch, and honestly, this will go down in the history books.
Yep, certainly Yamamoto well deserving of that World Series MVP. But I wanted to ask you, Jaden, this was a lot more than just him. This was truly a team effort. And which were some of the other players that really stuck out to you as really the reason that Dodgers were able to get this done?
Well, for the Dodgers, I think you're always going to go to Shohei Ohtani at the plate. If you tuned into Game 3, the 18-inning game, you saw the Blue Jays intentionally walk him. I think it was 3 times once that game got into extras because they didn't want to pitch him. Yeah, 5 times. Before that, he had 2 doubles and 2 homers. He had 3 homers total in the series. And he was just dangerous at the plate all season. Honestly, I was pretty prepared for him to be the one who tied the game in top of the 9th in Game 7. But yeah, Ohtani was probably the best hitter out of either team throughout that whole series. He didn't really show up how you would want him to on the mound, especially in Game 7. But I think for the Dodgers, their biggest, most valuable hitter for that series was definitely Ohtani.
Yeah, like you said, in that Game 3, it was incredible. I mean, 4 for 4 in the beginning. 2 doubles, 2 home runs, and then they walked him 4 times intentionally in extras, and then a 5th time, a 4th pitch walk, where maybe an intentional walk there. And his dominance was incredible. I mean, the Blue Jays were trying to pitch around him all game, all series long. But for Toronto, I feel like this was a series where they fought so incredibly hard. And I mean, truly, they were an inch away. If you think about that force out at home, I mean, literally, I saw a comparison to the KD thing with his shoe on the three-point line, and I was like, it was literally that much from you winning this World Series. And the Blue Jays had some incredible performances as well. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. left everything out there. He was the last person to leave the dugout after the Dodgers won Game 7. Colby, what did you see from Toronto in this series, and why did they ultimately just come up short, though?
I feel like, obviously with the winner, you're going to remember the Dodgers because we went back-to-back, but the Blue Jays played an equal amount of the World Series. They should also be remembered for their performances as well. And obviously you mentioned Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but the World Series is also just a place, any postseason in any sport, any playoffs, that is where names will be made. And so for the Blue Jays, obviously you have your star player, would you just sign a 10-year extension for in Guerrero, who is the future, and he proved that he can take this team to the World Series. But like the Dodgers, the Blue Jays also just had a team effort. I mean, Alejandro Kirk stepped up in a big way, and Bo Bichette coming back for the World Series. You could argue if Bo Bichette maybe played the entire playoffs, coming off just in the World Series, just playing not in a couple months, you could argue that. But obviously you have Addison Barger, Nathan Lucas, and even George Springer. I mean, all these players played a key aspect, which is why when people were saying the Dodgers would ultimately just sweep the Blue Jays, it would be a blowout series. All these players come together, and that's why it went to 7 games. But the Blue Jays obviously came up short. I think it's what you said, Jaden, just capitalizing on moments that they couldn't. It felt like every game there was a moment where it was either 1 or 0 outs, and the bases were loaded for the Blue Jays, and they just couldn't capitalize on any of it. And so just capitalizing on moments, and I feel like postseason success for the Dodgers and, not the Blue Jays not being in the postseason a lot, I feel like just the Dodgers being in the postseason a lot just helped in that.
Yeah, the experience was there and they proved it. But one player that I got to give a shout out to was the Savage. I mean, Trevor Savage. No experience, a rookie. And he set a strikeout record with 12 in Game 5. He did so much for this Blue Jays team. He was the Game 1 starter, started again in Game 5, and just what he was able to do, I mean, he left it all on the line for this pitching staff for the Blue Jays, and it was tough, you know, to see that performance. Kind of, it felt like that might have been the dagger, but just not quite enough, and the Dodgers were able to hold on. But for LA, this is a big win because going back-to-back for the first time since the Yankees did it in the late 90s, early 2000s in their three-peat. Jaden, do you think the Dodgers have what it takes to three-peat?
I think they do. I think they could. They have a bit of an aging roster. You know, you can expect Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman to be playing to the standard that they've been playing at this point in their careers. You can expect a downturn from them probably, but they've got a lot of young guys too. Yamamoto and Ohtani are both pretty young still. Those guys are in their prime. And who knows if they'll throw even more money at some free agents this offseason, make some trades. So I think there's definitely a chance. It's just an incredibly hard thing to do in general, even if you are a super team like the Dodgers. I mean, we even saw this year, they only won, you know, they were the 3 seed in the NL. So even if you have a super team, you're not guaranteed to, you know, win all these games and have that playoff run and get cold in the playoffs. But I think of all the teams, I mean, they probably do have the best chance to win the World Series next year, which of course would make the three-peat.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And one last question I want to ask real quick, Colby, is just looking at it just real fast. Do you think that the salary cap needs to change? Can the Dodgers keep getting away with this?
I feel like, I don't want to say it's a problem, but obviously, you know, like with sports nowadays, when like something arises, like the fans, social media, they'll have some sort of an impact. So I feel like we saw this with the Bills-Chiefs playoff game in 2022, when they went into the last 12 seconds and went to overtime, and the Chiefs scored on the first drive, and the Bills didn't get a chance. Well, people were outraged about that almost because of the Chiefs' success, and that's why they changed the rules where now every team gets a possession, or each team gets a possession. So I feel like if people complain enough, and the teams might complain enough, just like in the NFL with like the tush push, and the team's trying to ban it, I feel like if they will, the MLB will take a look at it. I don't know if it'll change, but it could be a conflict in the upcoming season.
Yep, certainly. It's something we'll have to monitor. But for now, it was a World Series for the ages, and it was incredible. Got to give them credit. But we're going to move on and talk about some UNT football coming up next.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
What's up?
Nothing much. I'm really bored. I feel like there's nothing to do.
Are you kidding? The MRTS picture show is happening.
The MRTS what?
Come with me.
Okay.
It's a series of free film screenings right here on campus.
And there's free popcorn. Nice. Thank you.
Looking to open a free checking or savings account but don't know where to start? Check out DatQ Credit Union right here on campus. Get your Mean Green debit card instantly or apply for a DatQ Visa credit card today. Your school, your card. Plus, make deposits at their 24/7 ATM, checks or cash whenever you need it. Make sure to sign up for DatQ's online banking platform and mobile app for easy access anytime, anywhere. Visit them at www.datq.org to learn more. DatQ, the official financial institution of UNT Athletics.
SportsZone, we're going to talk about some UNT football after their incredible win against the previously undefeated Navy. They get a huge win, and joining me to talk about it is Josh Ortega and Cooper Lyday. Guys, this was a big-time game and a big-time win for UNT. They go 31-17 against Navy. This was a game that meant a whole lot to this team because Coming in, Navy 7-0, you need this win to move up in the American Conference standings and get this tiebreaker over Navy. They get it done. Josh, what did you see from UNT in this game?
Yeah, honestly, this was a really good performance by the Mean Green. They were not one-dimensional on offense.
Exactly.
That's one thing that has really kind of hurt them all year, is when teams come into Denton that are 7-0 or ranked opponents, they always make this team one-dimensional. They were not that versus Navy. They were running the football very well. Caleb Hawkins was phenomenal. This passing game with Drew Mistemaker was even better. They were really good on defense, so many takeaways and turnovers in this game. Caleb Hawkins, of course, was the star of the show, but this was a huge win for this program and a phenomenal day for them.
Yeah, Caleb Hawkins was absolutely incredible. 197 yards, 4 touchdowns in this game. I mean, it just feels like it's almost a weekly occurrence for him at this point. What we've seen from the freshman, as I got to remind you guys, because it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Caleb Hawkins learned his name, I mean, not just at UNT, but really in the nation as a whole. He's been incredible. Cooper, what did you see from him?
Yeah, he delivered a phenomenal game-defining performance for him. As only a freshman, like if he continues to play this, he might be one of the best running backs in college football within a year, because he's already one of the best two-way running backs in the American Conference. And if he continues to play like this, like just smash-mouth football, not afraid of contact, he very well could be one of the best right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Josh, like you said, as incredible as Caleb Hawkins was, that wasn't it. You said, I mean, this offense has been so complimentary. Drew Mestemaker, 234 yards, only 5, not interceptions, not anything like that, incompletions. He only threw 5 incomplete passes in this game. Drew Mestemaker, it just feels like since that South Florida game, he's just been getting better and better week by week. Josh, what did you see from him?
I think just the continued performance of how good he is. You know, especially in these bigger games, we saw Navy send the blitz a lot. That's kind of what the MO has been to disrupting him and making him have to get the football out or have to take a big sack. And we didn't see that too much in this game, but like Steven said, 5 incompletions is a big thing. Drew's continuing to play well, obviously with the college football playoff rankings coming out tonight. We'll see how later in the season how that plays out, but so far, the Mean Green are in very good pace to potentially maybe get that last 12 G5. I'm going to speak it into existence because maybe it'll happen, but you know, Drew's been playing well, and so when Drew plays well, this team plays well.
Yeah, it's incredible just to think about that thought. We'll preview that just a little bit later, but I'll ask you, Cooper. Drew and these wide receivers were incredible once again on Saturday. What did you see from them and really just bringing that balance to this offense?
It was impressive how efficient he was through the air. And when you see Caleb Hawkins' stats, you think, oh, so the QB, he was just like, you know, maybe 100 yards. No, he had 234 yards, only 5 incompletions. Like, it's just impressive to see how balanced their game is, and hopefully this kind of sets a tone for maybe the rest of the season, hopefully going into playoff spot. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And guys, I think another huge component about this game was we talked a lot about the offense, but the defense was amazing in this game. And we talked about it last week, Josh, how maybe they didn't have the best performance against Charlotte. As incredible as Mestemaker in the offense was, the defense didn't get any takeaways. And for a team that is second in the nation in taking away the football, they really showed that once again on the Saturday game against Navy. 3 turnovers total. Josh, what do you see from the UNT defense?
Yeah, it was a big step up. You know, you really see it with this defense. They lose Shane Whittier in this game so early, right? And that you have the linebackers come in. Obviously, Ethan Wilowski was a big one who had a lot of tackles in this game. But you lose one of your biggest pieces on offense, one of the biggest reasons why you turn over the football so much, and you still play really good. This is a Navy team that's this one. They don't give away the football. That's one thing they don't do. They're explosive, but they don't give away the football. So this defense had a really nice night against a really good offense that's incredibly explosive that Morris talked about all week, having to be on your A game about.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned Ethan Weslowski, 14 tackles for him. That's a career high. He's been incredible. So has really the entire linebacking core. They really just showed once again how much of a just second dynamic that this defense can bring. Cooper, what did you see from him and the rest of the D?
Yeah, his ability to kind of make the crucial stops, and also players like Quentin Hammonds, like you said, the takeaways. It's important for against impressive teams and offensives like Navy to be able to take the ball away at critical points in the game, like which they did, and that honestly helped UNT just secure the game.
Yeah, for sure. And Quentin Hammonds, what a game it was for him. 2 interceptions. He was American Conference Defensive Player of the Week, and one was amazing. I mean, just that one-handed snag, what he was able to do was just incredible. And it just shows, once again, the depth on this defense. I mean, it feels like it's someone new stepping up every week. This week, yeah, it was definitely Hammonds and Weslowski making a big-time impact. But, I mean, you know, just mentioning them, too, it just feels like you're cutting them short a little bit because it was just so amazing. Josh, what did you see from this defense as a whole, and how much has Skylar Cassidy really just reinvented this entire defense?
Well, I think when you look at it last year, it's so night and day because even at points this year, we've talked about the run game, and that's the Achilles heel of this defense. But every defense has an Achilles heel. But when you take a step back and look at it, what it was last year under Capone and how we were rushing 3 defensive linemen, this is a big improvement. To be second in the nation in taking away the football, it's a huge margin. It's a very good margin to have. You're seeing the continuity of, obviously, with all the Sam Houston transfers coming in with Cassidy, you're seeing this defense really find itself in a really nice spot going forward. So they're gelling well, they're playing well, they're taking away the football. They keep doing that, they're going to be phenomenal at the end of the season.
Yeah, certainly. And UNT heads into the bye week now 8-1, I believe. Yes, 8-1.
8-1.
It's been amazing what they've been able to do week after week. Like we said, sort of since that South Florida game, it just feels like they kind of found a new dynamic in just complementary football. The defense was great. And, I just can't help but look forward just a little bit. You only have 3 games left after this bye week, and it feels like the toughest of your challenges are behind you in terms of teams we've playing. Cooper, looking forward, what do you think this UNT team can do down the stretch in these last 3 games?
I think if they continue their win streak, like you said, winnable games against UAB, Rice, Temple, and if they do get to the top of the conference and play in that championship game, they obviously should be ranked if they do win that, and they have a very strong chance of getting that number 12 spot that Memphis is currently holding. Right?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And UNT came into this week with 27 AP Top 25 votes. That's the most we've received all year long. If you look at the rankings, we're number 30 right now. So just 5 spots away from being ranked for the first time since 1959. Josh, do you think it could happen?
I was honestly kind of surprised it didn't happen this week. Just with the big win and everything, I know the rankings shake out differently, but you kind of felt like you were waiting for that big win to happen. Like against USF, it was, okay, we beat USF, we're probably guaranteed a ranking spot. Just with all the votes and the way it was leveling up, I was kind of surprised it didn't happen this week. But that's not to say that, Memphis or USF can kind of slip up towards that kind of back end of the top 25, that later down the line, that if they continue to play the way they're playing, they can be ranked towards the end of the season, which is probably the most important point for them to be ranked.
Yep, certainly. Cooper, do you think they should have been ranked this week, or do you think they'll get there soon?
I think they were probably going to be on the edge because, that USF game definitely hurt them, but I think definitely within the next couple of weeks, they definitely deserve to be ranked,
Yeah, certainly. And then just looking at this team, we've talked college football playoffs, and I got to mention it. If you had told me this at the beginning of the year, I'd say you're crazy. I'll be honest. Just to think UNT being in the CFP for that top G5 spot at number 12, it's crazy. But looking at what we've done so far this season, 3 manageable games to finish off the year. Josh, do you think it happens?
Well, if it does, we play Georgia, so I don't want to preview that game yet. But overall, I think that there is room for error from Memphis and USF. They still have some decent matchups going forward, so they've already played each other as well. And so that result plays into the top 25 as well. There's plenty of room for them to mess up here. For UNT, the path is pretty clear, so it's very possible.
Yeah, it's possible, and if you're saying there's a chance, that's good enough for me. I've been incredibly impressed with what this UNT football team's done all season long. Can't wait to watch them down the stretch, but we're going to move over and talk about our UNT basketball teams coming up next. back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, and we're going to talk about the UNT basketball teams. It's been a pretty crazy time for the football teams. We just finished talking about it. Joining me, Josh Ortega and Jadel Mirares. But guys, UNT basketball tipped off last night, and I'm excited. I mean, both teams, a doubleheader for the men's and women's team last night. But I want to talk about the men's first. They won 88-54 against New Mexico Highlands University. So obviously a smaller school. You know, this was not supposed to be much of a challenge for them. But Josh, you were there. Tell me what you saw from the team.
Yeah, you know, it was really an overall nice performance. It was kind of a slow start. Like, first game of the season, you get those jitters out. But really in the second half, this defense absolutely clamped down. They were phenomenal in the second half. Really helped them pull away. Really close in the first half. Only went into halftime 7 points up. But overall, for the first game of the season and getting all those jitters out, it was a really nice performance by this, both offensively and defensively for the Mean Green.
Yep, certainly. Jadel, what did you see from their performance last night?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I was there too. And they trailed a little bit in the first half, but, you know, Jay Sean, you know, he's the favorite. He really, you know, started that spark that led to them really keeping the momentum going with that three-pointer. And yeah, it was a fun and exciting game to watch. And then, yeah, they just dominated.
Yeah, certainly. It was a great final score. I was a little bit concerned in the first half looking at it. I was like, I knew you weren't going to lose this game. But, I mean, it's just game one. You know, you expect some, you know, growing for a team that is truly, and I mean truly, completely new.
Yeah.
I mean, literally not a single player returning from last season, brand new coaching staff. And, I mean, it's a whole lot of new. So, Josh, from the new guys, I guess that was everyone, who really impressed you the most?
For me, it was Jarshawn Stevenson. I think for me, you know, coming into the season, he transferred, of course, from Cleveland State with Coach D-Rob. And for me, he was really standout as a freshman. Came off the bench, had some really big minutes for them back at Cleveland State. Started this game and was phenomenal. Led the team in points with 18. Was really good at moving this offense around. Really good defensively as well. But offensively, running it, playing the point, being that guy from the mid-range and from three-point as well. Phenomenal day for him. I thought some of the younger guys coming off the bench, Will McClendon, I thought had a really nice day as well. And even the younger guys, some of the freshmen got some action here, and these guys are just bouncy, going around making plays, almost looking like Showtime. Josiah Shackleton here was phenomenal as the big coming off the bench. He's a little older, but overall, a really nice day from a group coming off the bench that, again, is brand new. 12 new players coming into this program, haven't played together fully. They played the exhibition game last week. This was their first game, so they're still building that chemistry. CJ Stinson as well, the other freshman coming in, was phenomenal. So really nice from, you know, kind of a different change of pace. We're so used to UNT being a little older. Obviously last year full of seniors. Yep. This year they're a lot younger. So you have a lot of potential with this team. They look really good. Yeah, certainly. A lot of potential is right. It was a great season for UNT last year, obviously going pretty far in the NIT tournament in the Final Four. But like you said, it's brand new. And it's, you know, a lot of young guys, and I was impressed from what I saw. Jayshawn Stevenson led the game with 18 points. Jadel, what did you see from them overall? And like Josh said, a lot of the players really doing well off the bench.
Oh, absolutely. I think they have that team chemistry, and it's also nice to see players following their coach whenever a coach gets a new job at a different university. I think that shows loyalty. But the player that impressed me the most was definitely Josiah Shackelford with 16 points. He was, you know, nice to. It was just nice to see him play and play that forward position. And I think that of all the guys on the team, I think he's one of the few ones that are, or one of the ones that have a great chance of going pro. Maybe not NBA per se, we never know, but I don't know, a league in Europe, maybe Euro League or Asian leagues. But like, he has the capability to go pro with his past record, and he has a beautiful story too. He started out in junior college and then went on to go to FGCU in Florida, didn't get enough minutes, and also to Georgia Southwestern last year, where he was averaging, you know, double, like in the teens, so like 18 points. And I think that's a type of drive that is needed, because he's willing to go anywhere to really play the game that he loves. So I think that he will definitely go far, really far, maybe even the pros.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey for Josiah, and I'm really happy to have him here. Definitely a great performance for him, 16 points. And then last guy I want to talk about, you mentioned him, Josh, is Will McClendon. What he was able to do, I mean, was just very impressive to me. You know, we talked about some of the top scorers, but he had 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, really just being involved, very complimentary in every aspect of the game. I was really happy with what I saw from him. Like you said, just so deep. Guys coming off the bench. It's going to be interesting to see how these starting lineups kind of develop. You know, this is obviously just game one, but I was really impressed from what I saw. And speaking on that, new head coach Daniel Robinson, this is his first year, obviously at UNT, replacing Ross Hodge after he departed to West Virginia. We've had a lot of great coaches here at UNT in the last few years, and Ross Hodge and Grant McCasland. They've left to Big 12 schools. What do you think Daniel Robinson brings to this program?
I think the biggest thing is we talked about it in the spring too. It was the defense. That was one of the big things that we harped on. If you go back and watch his press conference, it was a big thing that it was harped on back then. You saw glimpses of it. I think for me, the size of this team really stands out. There's not a single player under 6'3" on this roster. That is so night and day to what it was last year. Not that the guys last year were small by any means. I'm not trying to say that, but the size advantage really helped. They had 40 points in the paint. I mean, that's phenomenal when it comes to being a big team, having that size. So you're seeing that kind of play out. The scheme is still obviously in the works, game one, but I think the attitude that Coach D-Rob has for this team and just the togetherness they've shown so far in limited fashion has been really good. And so I have decently high expectations going in. Obviously the coach's poll was a little different for the American, but overall, I think that they're on the right path, and I think he clearly has shown that he can be the guy for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. And it is a different dynamic. I mean, if you look at last year, Atten Wright, Latrell Giselle, love them, but they were 5'10".
Yeah.
You know, it was just a different kind of team. And this team, if they can be physical, if they can play that type of, you know, just hard-nosed defense, I really think that can be a very big and important factor for UNT. But I want to move on and talk about the UNT women's team, because I'd argue they were even more impressive, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, an incredible performance. They win 106-36 against Oklahoma Christian. It was a dominant showing for the women. Jadel, what did you see from them?
Well, yeah, so they have 11 newcomers coming in this season, and 6 of them scored double digits with, you know, this type of roster going against a D2 school in a different conference, the Lone Star Conference. A lot of people said that it wasn't a very equal matchup, because UNT is obviously D1 in the American Conference going against a much smaller team, and they were kind of guaranteed to win. So it was no surprise that they scored in the hundreds, whereas Oklahoma Christian scored 36. So, but very great players from UNT as well.
Yeah, certainly. You know, these early season games, you have some of these difficult matchups for these smaller schools. Definitely a game UNT was always supposed to win, but Josh, when you win by 70, I mean, I think that says a little something more. What did you see from this women's team?
I think it says a lot about what you are. And look, I walked into the stadium, the women's game was still going on. I was sitting in the press box, and I kept hearing the three from the crowd, from the PA. It kept happening late in that fourth quarter. That was a big reason why this lead was so large. That points margin was freaking long. But at the end of the day, this team looks really good. I think Tiffany Hamden looks really good. She's one of the transfers coming in. She ran the point. She really had a nice night, had a career high in 23 points. So I think Coach Burton, again, with all of the turnover he's had this offseason, has had a really good group. For all 5 starters to be in double digits, that has to say something as well.
Yeah, guys, the threes were falling. If you've never been to the Super Pit, if the team makes 6 3-pointers, everyone goes home with a free Frosty. Guys, got to say, Tiffany Hammond did that all by herself. Went 6 for 7 shooting from 3, 22 points for her. It was amazing. You know, and I know, again, it's game one. I know it's a small school, but I got to give her some credit. That was incredible. And Jadel, what are you looking to see from her going forward in this season?
Definitely more threes. I would like to see her really shoot those shots against bigger opponents, a la Caitlin Clark.
There you go.
But another great athlete as well is Megan Nestor. She scored 17 points and 10 rebounds, and she's all the way from St. Lucia. So very nice to have her here, definitely.
Yep, a double-double for her. Tyona Lodge, also 16 points, 5 rebounds. It was just an incredible performance all around. I mean, we could keep going, but Josh, who impressed you the most, maybe other than Tiffany Hammond?
I would say Megan Nestor, 17 points. She was really good all game. I really liked her coming in. I think, you know, one of the starters, again, that had double digits, so she was one of my favorites to watch in this game.
Yeah, certainly it was an incredible performance. Coach Jason Burton entering his 3rd season now as UNT head coach. Really excited to see what he can do for a 3rd year, and really, you know, maybe a historic year for this team. It's really going to be exciting. But we're going to move on and talk about Dallas Stars coming up next.
I wonder what's on the radio today. I don't know about this. This is not it.
Everything alternative, commercial free. 88.1 Indy. Here at KNTU, we have 2 traditional stations, 88.1 Indie and KNTU Jazz. We've also recently launched an internet radio station called Mean Green Hits. If you want to hear more, you can check us out at MediaNorthTexas.com.
That was pretty good.
Are you looking for a fun club with travel opportunities? Dive into the UNT Swim Club. Practicing Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Pole Recreation Center. We accept members at any skill level. For more information, reach out to us at unt.swimclub on Instagram.
I use Flex to buy my favorite snacks.
I use Flex to get me through my mornings.
I use Flex at my favorite campus restaurants. I love how Flex is a cashless payment method and can be used at all campus dining venues.
So, how do you use Flex?
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, and we are going to talk about some Dallas Stars hockey. The Stars have had some up and down games, and joining me to talk about it, Beth Spicer and Mauricio Garcia. Guys, for the Dallas Stars this season, it's still early. You know, I don't ever like to overreact to the first few weeks, but it's been some heartbreak over the last couple games. The Stars are at 6-3-3, and 2 of those 3 overtime losses came in the last couple games. An overtime loss and then a shootout loss. So it's just tough. But Beth, I'll let you start us off. What have you seen from the Stars so far and in recent games?
I'm seeing obviously our last 2 games are losses, and right now they're down 1-2 to the Oilers in the second period. So it's kind of hard because it's like I know we're playing good games, especially just playing Florida, who came off of winning the Stanley Cup. So it's like I don't put too much on us, but it's hard. And I'm seeing us not scoring a ton. Either we're really high scoring, like we scored 5 in one game, so that's like crazy. And then sometimes we're not scoring at all. And it's like, okay, so hey, where's our balance in scoring? And we're also getting outshot the last 3 games too, which is kind of surprising for the Stars considering they've been a team who overshoots every game for the past couple years. So maybe that is a good thing, but I mean, we're losing, so maybe it's not.
Yeah, it was tough. So you lose an overtime game to the Lightning, and then, like you said, against the defending champion Panthers, you lose in a shootout. And it's like, at least you pick up the 2 points. I mean, if you
at least something happens.
If you want to look on the bright side, but it's just like, these are 2 quality teams, you know, don't get me wrong, but when you're in these type of games, you always want to win those, you know. It's just so tough when you lose those type of games. And Mauricio, as we roll the highlights here, what do you see from the Stars, and why did they just come up short?
Well, I mean, you could point out to different things. I mean, you could be like, you know, their starting 5, you know, not being able to try and perform like over the pan, especially right here, you know, just that close of a shot, just not going in. Just not going in. Like, it's one of those things where it's like they have to make those, especially against like the defending or the reigning champions. Previous champions of the Panthers right here.
Yeah, so the Lightning here, it was a rough one in this one. Heiskanen was so close to saving that shot. Like, just almost pulled it out, but it was just the Lightning making moves happen. This was a really good play here, and the Stars, they've done a good job at these tips. I mean, I got to give them a lot of credit for that. That's something, you know, the goalie screens and big tips. It's been impressive what they've been able to do from there. I think Joe Pavelski has some impact on that. I think his leadership from back then just, I don't know, it made something, especially for these young players.
Oh, definitely.
Especially, you know, Wyatt Johnson, rooming with him. But overall, you know, we just see plays like that. And it's like, once again, the defense just struggling to give the support, I think, of this really stellar offensive attack. Mauricio, what have you seen from the defense of the Stars, and what do you think is kind of lacking right now?
I mean, we just saw right here in this clip, you know, it was like a desperation type of play that they had to go on that. And it felt like they were like pinned against the wall, even though it's like, we have, you know, as I said, like the best starting 5, you know, so it's like so confusing to see this type of play and like them being like desperate in this sense. But it's like, they have to go on that mentality, especially with like the past like Lightning for the Tampa, that they are certainly the best team in the NHL right now. Even though the record doesn't show that, like, I mean, stat-wise, they are like, you know, putting up the numbers that they need to, and like just not being able to get over that hump, which is like sort of annoying, you know? Like, Beth, what do you like see from that as well?
Yeah, no, so like I went to the home opener against the Wild, and like we won that game 5-2, which was great. We did a lot at the end of the game, but there was a minute there in the third period where it looked a little shaky. Our defense wasn't. We are aggressive, but we need to be more aggressive. It's kind of the issue here is that even though we're winning, like I said, we won 5-2 in that game, but even then for a minute I was like, oh my gosh, are we gonna lose the home opener? And then we ended up like scoring a ton, and it was like, okay, no, we're fine. But I think that's what kind of happens with our defense is that they maybe rely on our offense, and then it's like, oh wait, no, we're here too. And it's like, oh no. And I think that's kind of part of it. And then also like another thing for our Stars is our penalty kill is 25th in the league. We're not doing great, but our power play percentage is the third highest in the league. So we're good at scoring power plays. We're not good at stopping them. So kind of evens out, kind of not. You need your defense to kind of step up on that because you can't keep losing to power plays, especially, you know, we get into playoff season and we're down to that. You need your power plays to be stopped. I mean, it's an important part. And
yeah, the Stars, I mean, what you're describing to me sounds like another star in Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys. And the offense is great, but the defense just
it struggles.
Leaving something to be desired. And I mean, it's ironic just because if you guys heard, the Stadium Series is going.
Yes, I saw. I'm so excited.
In 2027, the NHL Stadium Series will be right here in AT&T Stadium in Arlington. That's going to be incredible. When the Winter Classic was here at the Cotton Bowl, it was amazing. Yeah. And now put that inside Jerry World, it's going to be a very exciting time. So just real quick, I want to ask you guys excited for that?
Oh yes, most definitely.
Obviously, I mean, going into that stadium, I mean, AT&T is beautiful from inside and out.
Oh yeah.
And like just having a hockey game, I think would just like fit that kind of winter scenario just so perfectly as well. Like, come on now, Cowboys and then the Stars like playing in the same stadium.
Yeah,
come on.
I think it also helps, you know, especially with all the Stars and the Mavs drama going down between those two, that it kind of solidifies that the Stars are here to stay in DFW. Obviously, they're not moving out, but that they are our team. And like, I just love when they do the hockey games in the stadiums. I think it's so funny you bring it to a much larger audience, and I hope their walkout's cool. That's what I really like about the hockey. I hope their walkout is really good. We're home, and then also I hope the windows and AT&T don't throw off our hockey teams. That is the one thing I'm actually kind of worried about because I'm like, will the window mess us up?
Jerry, please
please put the blind.
Before 2027, we'd really appreciate it for the Stars. If you can't do it for the Cowboys, please do it for the Stars because that would be blinding. Imagine off the ice.
Exactly, it's gonna be white.
Yeah, so we'll have to see, but it's exciting. You know, just always growing the game. You know, of hockey, and then hockey in Texas. Obviously, the Stars are the only team. And, it brings a lot of excitement to Dallas. Like I said, that Cotton Bowl Winter Classic was incredible. Can't wait to see what this Stadium Series brings. But you mentioned the drama, and we got to talk about that too. Yeah. We talked about it last week, how the Mavs filed a lawsuit against the Stars over apparently blocking renovations to the American Airlines Center. Since then, the Stars filed a reverse lawsuit against the Mavericks for aggression and, basically trying to dominate this relationship. And this is, some drama that you just hate to see. The AAC literally divided between the Stars and the Mavericks. And, it's just something just odd. Yeah. And it's just a distraction, I think, at this point in the year, especially. Mauricio, what do you think? And do you think this gets resolved anytime soon?
I mean, by the way the news reports are saying, I don't even think this gets resolved anytime soon, which I personally wish would, get resolved. But it's these are two ownership groups that are, in lock with each other. They're trying, especially with the new ownership with Mavs, they're not going to try and, say, hey, we're going to side with you. No. I mean, they want their way, especially with how, they were able to gain the Mavs, them having ownership of, or that sort of sense with the AACC. Who wouldn't want that? Beth, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like your parents getting divorced, really. For me, at least. For me, it is because I grew, I don't know, I love the AAC. It's kind of my home. I grew up at Globe Life Park, and that was my home, and then they moved, and so I lost one of my homes, and so I still have the AAC, and now the AAC is splitting apart, and I'm like, guys, can we please get along? I love both of you. But I'm not super surprised about this situation, especially after Mavs ownership and what they've done over the past couple months with a few trades they've made. But it kind of makes me sad, and I don't really want the Stars to move to Frisco. I love them in Dallas because, they're kind of looking at moving to Frisco. And then the Mavs are looking at staying within Dallas, especially Irving. So, it kind of hurts that they're splitting, and then it's like you're still the Dallas Stars, but you're not in Dallas. Like no one's in Dallas anymore. We have the Dallas Wings and Dallas Trinity FC. The women's teams are coming through for Dallas, and nobody else is, and it's I just don't want them to move. I think it's super nice, and also getting to the AC is great with getting on the dart line and then getting off.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Please don't move it.
Yeah, certainly so much movement. You said the Wings, they're moving from Arlington to Dallas, so at least there's something. But yeah, Mauricio, for this, you look at the Mavs, and they're talking about maybe renovating, maybe a new arena in Irving, and then the Stars, they've thrown around maybe a potential $1 billion arena in Plano. And it's just like, I don't know. What do you think is the future for the Dallas Stars in Dallas or maybe one of the suburbs?
I mean, those would be sort of, for me at least, kind of random places to be put in. I mean, like, because I mean, like the star like cities are like in Arlington, which is like far, but it's like that's where the Cowboys and that's where the Rangers play. You put them in Dallas, that's where the whole Metroplex is. That's where everyone is at. But you put them in like small suburbs like that, like. It doesn't really make sense since it's like they're smaller cities compared to Dallas. So it's like one of those like just things where it's like, come on, just stay in Dallas, man. Come on. That's where I grew up. That's where I've been able to see the Stars. I've been able to see the Mavs. Like, I mean, it's like the home for them, you know?
Yeah, what are we gonna do with the statues if we move?
That is
Where are the statues gonna go? We just built both of them.
So like, you're gonna move the Madonna statue? Guys, like, I don't know.
There's a lot of problems.
Lots of changes, lots of craziness going on in Dallas, and we're going to continue to monitor it all as the seasons continue to unfold. But thank you so much for watching us on SportsZone. Make sure to give us a follow at NTTV Sports for some behind-the-scenes content, and stay tuned for our show later this week on Thursday for Thursday SportsZone. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week on SportsZone.